Hey guys, Aaron CybertronVGC here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online regulation F VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be trying out the team that Toler Webb used to win the Knoxville Regional Championships, which is one of the largest tournaments of this season. Toler is the 2012 Senior Division World Champion as well as the 2015 US National Champion, and claimed a really impressive victory using Pokemon like Nasty Plot Gholdengo as well as Assault Vest Raging Bolt and Rain Dance Tornadus. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team and the tournament, but if you want to just skip to the results, check out the timestamps down in the description below, and thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, would really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's dive into things. First of all, just for some quick context, the Knoxville Regional Championships took place in the beginning of February 2024 and had nearly 500 players competing in the Masters division. It used the Regulation F rule set, and Toler Webb was able to claim the entire championship. You can check out the top 128 teams from this event linked down in the description below, thanks to Victory Road. Toler is one of the most accomplished players in the history of VGC. He's one of the few players that's won a regional, national, and world championship title, and he did all of those in separate years. The World Championship was in 2012 in the Seniors Division, the National Championship was the US National Championship in 2015, and then a regional title in 2016. Coming into Knoxville Regionals, Toler also just had a tremendous performance at the Charlotte Regional Championships where he finished in the top 8. That is the largest VGC tournament of all time, and Toler also had top cut the Orlando Regional Championships, which was previously the largest tournament of all time. He used a team of Tornadus as well as Gholdengo and Raging Bolt in order to claim the championship. Gholdengo stands out in particular because at this event, it was not within the top 12 in terms of usage. And Gholdengo is interesting because it's had so much success throughout Scarlet and Violet VGC, and it feels like it kind of comes in waves. And so in the meta going into this tournament, not that many people were actually using it. What's also interesting is that Tornadus usage was really high, but there were actually no other Tornadus teams here within the top 8, and even if you look within the top 16, there's only one other Tornadus team and only 2 other Gholdengo teams. And so Toler was able to craft a team that utilized Nasty Plot Gholdengo really effectively. You have so much damage from everything on this team, and Assault Vest Raging Bolt's also something that's really been rising in the meta, so after this tournament, I really expect Gholdengo on this team as well as the Raging Bolt to pick up in popularity. So if you want to check out the rest of the teams and the results for this, check out the link down in the description below, but just wanted to quickly provide some context. Breaking things down, as always, rental, pace, and team creators are linked down in the description below. And question of the day, I want to know how you're currently feeling about the Regulation F format after we've been playing it for a couple of weeks. Now, this team was created by Toler as well as Justin Knox, aka 45 Mice. I featured a couple of Justin's teams on the channel before, and he's one of my favorite team builders and players from the last 2 seasons. Justin actually got top 8 at the North American International Championships and also got top 8 at the Peoria Regional Championships earlier this season. Toler and Justin put their brains together and built this masterpiece of a team, and there are 2 Pokemon I want to call out in particular, which are Gholdengo as well as Assault Vest Raging Bolt. Now, Gholdengo is a Pokemon, like I mentioned, that's had tremendous success in Scarlet and Violet VGC, but in Regulation F, it's actually not been used that much because there are a ton of Pokemon that are popular that just have a decent matchup into it. Think about Pokemon like Incineroar, Fire Ogerpon, Water Ogerpon, Dark Urshifu. All of those can give Gholdengo a fair amount of trouble. So to solve for that, this Gholdengo has Nasty Plot as well as Metal Coat and Fairy Terra. So the idea is that you can first of all quickly boost your special attack stat, and you have a lot of support for it, right? Fake Out from Incineroar, Follow Me from Ogerpon as well as Tailwind from Tornadus. And in the right position, Gholdengo can just absolutely sweep through teams. You're the Metal Coat variant here rather than Leftovers. The idea is to just burst down in terms of damage a little bit more, and Fairy Terra is really helpful against Dark Urshifu, which otherwise just can give Gholdengo so much trouble. You'll notice that this Gholdengo has a lot of bulk as well, with 252 HP and 44 defense. With this EV investment, you always survive Sucker Punch from Jolly Chien-Pao unless they crit, and Adamant Chien-Pao Sucker Punch only has a 1 in 16 chance of getting the knockout. Otherwise, your EVs are distributed between special attack, special defense, and speed. This Gholdengo actually has a fair amount of speed. Of course, 1, that's valuable so that when Tornadus sets up Tailwind, you're basically outpacing everything that doesn't have a Scarf or a booster energy, for example. And 2, this means that you have a leg up against other Gholdengos that might be slower, as well as Pokemon that operate in that speed tier range, like Rillaboom, for example, that might want to run some speed investment. So this Gholdengo is designed to just really put out massive amounts of damage, especially after a Nasty Plot. Assault Vest Raging Bolt's the other Pokemon I wanted to talk about, and it is something that's been really popular in the meta recently. Going into Knoxville Regionals, I feel like it was one of the fastest rising sets that I've seen in a while, and people just really started to understand, hey, Raging Bolt is an incredibly bulky Pokemon and has so many good moves. These moves are all really standard on Bolt. You can also run Electro Webb, for example, but Snarl, amazing into all the Psychic Spam teams that exist out there, and also just valuable into all the special attackers. And then Thunderclap, Draco Meteor, and Thunderbolt are all pretty self-explanatory. Fairy Terra is really common on Raging Bolt to give you the immunity to opposing Dragon-type attacks, which is also really valuable when you're facing against opposing Raging Bolts. And you can see that there is a good amount of distribution between all of the EVs here. I think Raging Bolt's EV spread is probably one of the hardest to kind of come up with, and so I like the spread a lot. It feels like it just survives so many attacks. It also does massive amounts of damage, and with the speed investment, you obviously capitalize off Tailwind, and so you're able to reach 224, which allows you to practically outpace everything when Tailwind is set up, and you also just survive so many attacks thanks to the investment that this has. And so the main thing to think about when using Raging Bolt is that it just kind of stays on the field for a long time, but also can just like do massive amounts of damage with Draco Meteor and Thunderbolt while also not taking too much in return, and Thunderclap just creates a lot of mind games for your opponent. To support the team, you've got Incineroar. This Incineroar is really standard, but the one thing to call out here is that your Admin nature. Admin is cool because you just deal a little bit more damage with Flare Blitz and Knockoff, and your opponents often don't expect you to do as much damage because most people run a defensive nature on Incineroar, and so that extra bit of damage can often go a long way. Incineroar is still an incredible offensive option. Like, Flare Blitz and Knockoff are two of the best moves in the game, and being able to just threaten your opponent with those is incredible. So Incineroar plus Gholdengo is actually one of my favorite leads with this team personally. You've also got Water Ogerpon. This Water Ogerpon, as you can see, is super defensive and fast, and so the amount of speed investment you have here allows you to outspeed Max Speed Landorus, Incarnate, Chi-Yu, and Urshifu, and Water Ogerpon has a really nice matchup into all of those, and so being able to outpace them guaranteed is a really big deal, especially against Landorus Incarnate, which it feels like more players have been picking up recently as well. So the idea, of course, is that Ogerpon is really nice as a redirection user. You can follow me and let Gholdengo set up, but this team also has Rain Dance Tornadus, so Ogerpon turns into a really nice offensive option where you just set up Rain Dance, Water Terra, and then you have the boost, you have the Rain, and then Ivy Cudgel just does so much damage across the board. And so it's cool because Ogerpon can be used defensively or offensively with this team. For example, you could consider just leading Ogerpon-Gholdengo to go for Follow Me into Nasty Plot, then as Ogerpon faints, bring out Tornadus, set up Tailwind, and start sweeping with Make It Rain. Tornadus on this team is pretty standard as well, but another thing to call out here is that it doesn't have much speed investment and you are modest once again, and so the idea that Toler mentioned is it really just prefers getting a little bit of extra damage from Flare Blitz and Knockoff from Incineroar with Admin and from the Bleak Windstorm from Tornadus. I really like this Tornadus set. You've got Rocky Helmet, which allows you to chip away things like Ice Spin or Chien-Pao and break Focus Sash, as well as Dragonite, and of course it's really valuable into opposing Water Urshifu and Sash Dark Urshifu as well, and the idea often is to, of course, set up Tailwind. Rain Dance is really nice, and this Tornadus is quite bulky as well, so one thing that I found is that I often have the room to set up Rain Dance and then click Bleak Windstorm like multiple times afterwards. Bleak Windstorm is one of the most stressful moves to click in VGC, honestly, because 80% accuracy is just pretty low, especially when, you know, you're targeting two different Pokemon with it, but it's really nice because Rain Dance not only enables Ogerpon, but also enables Bleak Wind to be 100% accurate. Rain Dance is also helpful against opposing Fire-type Pokemon. Imagine going up against a Chi-Yu, a Fire Ogerpon, getting rid of that weather is helpful. And then also going up against opposing weather teams, if they have like Sunny Day, if they have Torkoal, for example, is also helpful. So super valuable Pokemon here, and Steel Terra is just pretty nice defensively. I think Tornadus is a Pokemon that you can definitely lead with this team if you want to just put on a lot of offensive pressure immediately. Tornadus with Ogre, Tornadus with Bolt, Tornadus with Urshifu, with Gholdengo, all of those can work. The final Pokemon I haven't talked about yet is Dark Urshifu, and this is pretty standard. You're basically almost max attack, max speed with a little bit of defense investment, and of course the idea is to just do as much damage as possible. Focus Sash is just the most consistent item on this Pokemon. So Urshifu is ridiculous for closing out games because a lot of times your opponents will try to stall out Tailwind by protecting, but of course Urshifu doesn't care for protect and can just go for Wicked Blow or close combat through those moves, which is really, really valuable. So having a Dark type in this format is just nice. I mean, you've got two with this team, but having something that can take, for example, Expanding Forces is really valuable, and Urshifu has just been incredible in this format right now because Dark typing with Wicked Blow in particular I feel like is just so strong. With Incineroar picking up as well, you know, close combat obviously does massive amounts of damage to that as well. So there are a lot of different ways to play with this team, right? Everything can do actually really meaningful damage, so I often first center around asking myself whether or not I need Tailwind. and if Tailwind would give me a pretty significant advantage. If the answer is yes, then I think about, should I be leading Tornadus or should I have it in the back? I like leading Tornadus when my opponent just doesn't have too much immediate response to the damage that I have, but I don't like leading Tornadus if my opponent has ways to knock out Tornadus immediately and they have bulky Pokemon. For example, I think if you're staring down an opposing Raging Bolt, you gotta think a lot more about leading Tornadus, because Tornadus will just faint and you will struggle to actually deal really good damage to Bolt even after setting up Tailwind. But in the right matchup where they just don't have great speed control and they don't have great Gholdengo answers, sometimes I just like to Tailwind and start, clicking Make It Rain immediately. You could definitely go with something like Instinct Gholdengo to go for Fake Out plus Nasty Plot, Ogerpon-W. Honestly, I would recommend you just watch Toler's games from regionals to see all the different modes that he approached the team with, because this team is super flexible and really any combination can work. And so it's more about assessing like which four have the best matchup against my opponent. Keep in mind that I think a lot of the times you're not going to actually pick up big one-hit knockouts unless you get like a Nasty Plot off with Gholdengo. Bolt is really strong, Ogerpon's strong, but like very few of these Pokemon are actually max invested in their special attack or their attack. So as a result, a lot about this team is distributing damage like at the right time and then looking to secure knockouts after getting a little bit of chip damage. So you'll want to think about that as you use the team as well. So yeah, that's it for a quick breakdown. Now let's highlight some weaknesses. So in terms of weaknesses, the first Pokemon I want to call out, hilariously enough, is opposing Assault Vest Raging Bolt. Toler mentioned that it was a pretty big problem for this team, and I definitely experienced it, especially while fighting in closed team sheet best of one ladder play. I think most of my losses I had while using this team were to opposing Raging Bolts, partially because I didn't know how fast they were, I didn't know what Terra they had, didn't know what moveset they had, and so part of what makes it so tricky is that you don't have that many ways to hit it, right? Draco Meteor from your Raging Bolt's going to be the best way, but if they have Fairy Terra, suddenly Raging Bolt and Urshifu just feel a lot weaker against it, and you kind of have to rely on Gholdengo. But in a lot of the games I lost, I was like, I don't even want to bring Gholdengo because Gholdengo's really weak into the rest of their team. I'm only bringing it on the chance that they are going to Fairy Terra their Bolt. And so I think for ladder play in particular, opposing Raging Bolts with Assault Vest can be really, really hard, or just Raging Bolts in general. And Toler mentioned that the variants that either had Roaring Moon balance or Landorus Incarnate, for example, would be tricky to go up against. And so I definitely kind of second that statement, and I think you have to be really smart when playing against opposing Assault Vest Raging Bolts. I think I've also struggled a little bit when my opponents have Pokemon that outpace me, like even if Tailwind is set up. So that's something like a Choice Scarf Pokemon like Urshifu, for example, or Speed Booster Fluttermane. As you'll notice, this team is fairly speedy, but the idea is that with Tailwind, you want to just outpace everything that doesn't have a speed boost, but they have that Choice Scarf. If they have that speed boost, that can get a little bit tricky. A priority can sometimes be annoying as well. This team has a lot of bulk, but I think I've had games where I've set up Tailwind, I survive attacks, but then my opponent just needs to go for like Sucker Punch or Thunderclap, and it just knocks out something that was able to survive an attack previously. And so that's another thing to watch out for. And then one other thing I want to call out is I think using Tornadus with this team can be a little bit trickier. A lot of people are used to just Tornadus setting up Tailwind and just sweeping immediately, and that can be the case with this team, especially if you set up Nasty Plot, but I think it's not as easy to execute because you're not running something like max special attack or max attack on most of these Pokemon, right? And you don't have like Choice Band or Choice Spec. So as a result, what ends up happening is you set up Tailwind and you do a lot of damage, but you might not necessarily be picking up those knockouts. So you have to be really smart about how you distribute your damage. I think with like super fast-paced hyper offense teams like Choice Specs to you, for example, the idea is you set up Tailwind and then you just sweep and you just click, buttons over and over again. But with this team, I think you have to be a lot more intentional. Like once you set up that Tailwind, how do I actually get the most value out of it? Because it's not as easy as some of those really fast-paced hyper offense teams. For that reason, I actually sometimes like bringing Tornadus in the back where I distribute damage in the early game, then bring out Tornadus once everything's chipped away. Then I can click Tailwind and then just try to sweep afterwards. But I wouldn't call that a weakness of this team, but it's just something to think about because I think it functions a little bit differently from other Tornadus teams that you may have been used to seeing or playing with. So yeah, those are a couple things that I wanted to call out. All right, we've got Roaring Moon here with the Mungus, Ogerpon, Incin, Flutter, and Raging Bolt. This is just one of the classic balance teams, and it is, I'd say, just overall really consistent. In my opinion, it's actually one of the harder teams to pilot in the format because you don't have, like, you have a lot of strong Pokemon, but it's all about kind of positioning and figuring out how to bring it out in the right spots. And so the main thing I'm thinking about here is we have speed control via Tornadus, but how Tornadus is really weak into a Raging Bolt lead, right? So I might actually want to bring Tornadus in the back for late game Tailwind. I probably want Incineroar here because otherwise Roaring Moon becomes really scary and can get out of control. Nasty Plot with Gholdengo is tempting here. You know, I'm actually pretty intrigued by, like, Insane Gholdengo, Bolt. I could go Torn back. That feels kind of weird, though. It's not terrible, right? I'm really worried about the Raging Bolt matchup right now. I don't think Ogre solves for too much with it. I'm going to go Urshifu, actually. So, I think Tornadus can be really good in this matchup, right? Especially with Bleak Wind into Ogerpon and Amoonguss. But the reason I don't love it is because I've had a fair number of games while playing with this team where I just lead Tornadus into, like, a Raging Bolt, and then Tornadus sets up Tailwind, but then I don't really capitalize off Tailwind either. But they go with Moon and Amoonguss, so Tornadus would have been pretty sick here. That being said, I actually still think this is a really good lead for me on turn 1, right? Because I get Intimidate off onto Roaring Moon. I have Fake Out plus Nasty Plot Pressure immediately. So, I don't mind this too much. Okay, you get your speed boost, that's fine. So we could Grass Terra here and immediately just be double immune to Spore on turn 1. But it means then I can't Terra Gholdengo, which don't know if I love. Like the inability to Terra. It's actually a really interesting decision, huh? I'm just gonna Fake Out Nasty Plot here. This is like a super free Nasty Plot. There's no way to deny this. Okay, Moon protects. That's fine. Amoonguss probably then goes for Spore, but if they protect, that would be amazing. Oh, amazing. Okay, hey, free Nasty Plot. Sick. This is the dream scenario for Gholdengo. The main thing to respect now is knockoff from Roaring Moon. So what I could do next turn is just Fairy Terra Gholdengo, so the knockoff doesn't do that much damage. The question is what I want to do with Incineroar. I think trying to just knock out Amoonguss here feels fine. Amoonguss might switch out. They could go into Insane. They could go into their own Ogerpon or go into Bolt. I don't mind just going for knockoff here. Into Amoonguss. Terra. Make it rain. Alright, they just stay in. That's fine. This is kind of a dream lead for us into a dream turn 1, so I'm feeling decent about the spot right now. Losing Metal Coat is a little unfortunate because it's just so nice with Make It Rain, but it's still okay. Yep, so there's the knockoff. I think my fear right now, though, is because Amoonguss didn't switch out, they survive Make It Rain, eat up Citrus, and then I don't KO them with knockoff anymore, because that could have been a Flare Blitz instead. Maybe I should have been Flare Blitz here. But, I mean, it's still okay, even if they end up sporing. Yeah. Oh, it's actually just Pollen Puff instead. Okay, that works for me. I'd consider protecting Roaring Moon here. Does Amoonguss pivot out right now? If I were them, like, I'd consider pivoting Amoonguss out and then clicking Protect with Roaring Moon. So I want to Parting Shot Amoonguss and Nasty Plot here. Nice. Okay. I didn't get the turn right last turn, but this turn should be pretty good for us. Yeah, they bring out Ogerpon. That's fine. Good acro. Okay, they didn't end up... so they just play offensively there, which is quite nice by them. Just a little bit scary, but I don't think either of their Pokemon should knock me out because your Ogerpon's at -1. I just bring Instant back out and suddenly you're at -2. Okay. What do I want to reveal first here? You revealed the Amoonguss. I think I don't mind going into Bolt here because it just applies so much offensive pressure with Draco Meteor and like might force a Follow Me from them, for example. If I were them, actually, I think your play is to like protect one of these and then switch back out into Amoonguss. But I think I want to just pivot in Incineroar here. Pivot and Incineroar and Protect here I think is actually pretty strong. Because then I can just Fake Out, Make It Rain next turn. And if they end up switching into Amoonguss, then I can just Fake Out Amoonguss, Make It Rain. That was a nice side Pollen Puff, though. Like, that turn could have just been a Flare Blitz. We eliminate Amoonguss immediately. And then Roaring Moon is super low HP. But I figured if we could nail them switching out into something and removing, like, an Incineroar's item, for example, that would have been extra sweet. Okay, yeah, they pivot in there, Incineroar. So it's Incin, Amoonguss, Ogre, Roaring Moon, which is great because it's all physical, meaning these Intimidates for my Incineroar is so valuable. But we just have to be a little patient right now. The Incineroar on the team we're using, by the way, is 36 speed EV, so I don't know, you know, the likelihood of us being faster than their Incineroar. We'll have to see. Okay. +3. You're at -2 now. Ogre should probably switch out at this point. Alright, I'm just going to Fake Out and Shadow Ball now. We'll see if they end up being faster with their Incineroar. With 36 speed EVs, I think there's a decent chance we outpace them. Ogre makes the switch, which is fine. Yep, into Amoonguss. Okay, nice. We get Fake Out. Great. And they didn't go for Fake Out this turn, so maybe just trying to Flare Blitz or Parting Shot. So we clear Amoonguss. This is pivotal for my opponent now because you do finally get Ogerpon in and you get rid of the attack drops, right? So it pressures with Ivy Cudgel into either slot. I think I would have been better off actually bringing my Ogerpon in this game if I could replay this. So if I were them, I would just Terra this now, and the question is, who do you target? Incin is pretty safe as a target. But I think switching into Bolt here and protecting is relatively safe as well. It's like a fairly obvious play, but I still don't mind making it. Raging Bolt just has a really good matchup into their team at this point. And now that if this is indeed Water Terra Ogerpon, now I just hit you for super effective damage with electric type attack, so this is perfect. Okay, excellent. Incineroar here should Parting Shot, so I wouldn't be surprised if they actually double up onto the Bolt switch in, but even if they do, it's still fine in my opinion. Yep, nicely done. They do Ivy Cudgel into that slot. So this could have just been a Shadow Ball this turn or Make It Rain. And like I said, I expect Parting Shot here into that as well. But no, they actually just Flare Blitz. Okay, perfect. That's great. Now I expect Ogerpon to just Protect. I don't mind switching Bolt out into Incineroar here. And going for Make It Rain. Yeah, like, we're not going to get a knockout with Shadow Ball. Maybe we could knock out Ogerpon, but to be honest, I wouldn't even expect that. And I think, like, with Bolt and Urshifu in the back, like, I don't mind just getting this Intimidate. Actually, so the one risk in this is that they could Ivy Cudgel crit onto Gholdengo, right? But I would expect them to maybe even protect Ogerpon here. Yeah, exactly. Cool. This one was a little bit risky, I guess, though, because of that play, but now we should be in really good shape. If I were them, I would knock off or Parting Shot with Incineroar, and if they do that, then I just Fake Out into Ogerpon next turn, and Make It Rain just does awesome damage there. Perfect. Yeah, then they Parting Shot. Excellent. So Roaring Moon is going to come back out. And you just protected with Ogerpon, so I can just Fake Out that slot. I don't think I need to be that scared of Acrobatics from Moon. Maybe I should respect its damage output a little bit more. I'm actually not sure. +2 right now. Got Bolt in the back. I don't know. Without Flying Terra, just don't expect Acrobatics to knock this out. We're like max HP, 44 defense. I'm just going to go Fake Out, Make It Rain here. Okay, Ogre switches. I mean, they're doing a good job of cycling out, but, like, this is totally fine because I have the numbers advantage, right? So, switching doesn't really help you that much because I still have a healthy Incineroar. So, I expect Roaring Moon to protect her, but maybe they just go for Acrobatics. Oh, okay. They're going for Acro. So, I could have just won here if I targeted Moon, but actually, yeah, Acro does not KO. Cool. That's what I figured. And Gholdengo just gets a double KO. Brilliant. Yeah, this was just a clinic with Gholdengo. I think Gholdengo is already really good into this matchup, and then bringing a Moongus and that lead specifically meant that I got a free Nasty Plot off and was able to just spam our damage immediately. And Intimidate was just so good here, right? Because they didn't bring special damage. And so, like, Flutter and the Raging Bolt can be scary because they can burst us down, but now we can just switch back out. I mean, it doesn't really matter how we sequence this, honestly. We can just Parting Shot here and Shadow Ball. We just wait for the free switch it into Bolt or Urshifu. So, yeah, I mean, this game was just one-off, one Instant plus Gholdengo being a really effective lead into their combo, and then just being able to Nasty Plot up and put on so much offensive pressure with Gholdengo throughout that entire battle. The main really nice thing about Gholdengo is having that immunity to Amoonguss, right? So knowing that they couldn't Spore us at any given point was huge. I do think, like, the one scary turn is turn 2, when the Amoonguss just stayed in. It didn't switch like I expected it to. Because I thought they would have Incineroar in the back, and I thought they would... And they did end up having it, right? So I thought, like, Amoonguss pivoting into Incineroar would make a ton of sense. So I was trying to knock off to get rid of a potential Citrus Berry from it. But then they just ended up staying in. If they ended up clicking Spore onto my Incineroar slot, I think things actually could have been a lot scarier. So maybe it would have been better to just go for the safe Flare Blitz there. But I thought, like, almost all the time they would end up considering switching out there. And so, yeah, I think, like, that turn is the main turn I'd reevaluate a little bit more. It also helped when it was my Incineroar brought out against theirs, and they actually ended up just pivoting out the Ogerpon. And so, yeah, like, they switched out a lot, right, to reset the attack drops, but the main thing here is that even just one attack drop goes such a long way, and so, like, the Gholdengo wasn't really immensely pressured at any point. And with the amount of bulk that we have plus Intimidate support, it was really well positioned in this game. Alright, we've got solo Dondozo here, actually. No Tatsu, which is interesting. No Chiampao either. Normally with these teams, I expect to see, like, a Tornadus over the Dragonite slot, or a Tatsugiri over Dragonite. So against Glamora, what do we want to do? It's normally going to be Speed Booster here on the Flutter. Could be Scarf Chiyu, but Specs is fairly common. I think there's a decent chance it's Assault Vest on Dragonite, so we want to be careful about that. I really like Raging Bolt here, I think, with Snarl. I think Ogre can be really good damage-wise. Incineroar probably not very good here, given that they can crit with Urshifu. Dragonite is Inner Focus. It's still okay as, like, a pivoting tool, though. Critically, they don't have Fake Out here, so I could definitely just lead Tornadus and set up Tailwind with this immediately. Tornadus, Ogerpon, Bolt, Urshifu feels okay here. I, like, really wonder if I actually should be dropping Gholdengo, because if it gets a Nasty Plot off, I think it can be pretty sick. But I really like all the other Pokemon here. So, let's commit to this. I think Incineroar is the one that I feel least confident on bringing into this matchup. You could actually still make an argument for it. For example, with Incineroar, you can tank attacks from Chiyu and go for Parting Shot. So, for example, if I lead, like, Instant into Flutter Chiyu, one thing I could do is, like, just Parting Shot out and then bring out, like, Ogerpon, for example. Like, if I led Torn Instant, protect it, Torn, Parting Shot, and then bring out Ogre immediately. But it's going to be Glamora Dozo, okay? So, the upside here is that Ogerpon puts on massive amounts of pressure against both of these. And so, ideally, we force a Terra out from them early on. I don't mind double protecting on turn 1. The upside of this is it baits out Protect from Glamora, it baits out Meteor Beam from Glamora, and it baits out Terras. The downside here is if Dondozo is Substitute, but we already get a Terra out, so I'm happy about that. It's going to be Terra Glamora into Grass. Okay. Well, that means I can Bleak Windstorm you now, which is good. One thing to also think about here is Glamora wants to poison things here, right? And Dondozo's kind of going to just stick on the field and probably click Yawn. So One of the things to think about is how do we position ourselves for poison? Actually, just go straight for Sludge Bomb. Okay, that's fine. This is where bringing Gholdengo actually would have been pretty valuable. Gholdengo would be perfect against this duo right now, but this is still okay. Don't necessarily need to Tailwind right now. This is actually really interesting. I could use Tornadus, or sorry, Ogerpon defensively. So essentially, what I can do is Terra Ogerpon right now. Yeah, I think I actually want to use Tornadus offensively because Rain Dance plus Bleak Wind is kind of nasty here. So what I'm going to do is Rain Dance, Terra, and Follow Me. I know this seems a little bit unconventional, but basically the logic here is that Bleak Wind Storm is excellent into my opponent's entire team. And with Terra here on the Ogerpon, we're not really threatened that much by my opponent's side. So, like, ideally, I think we'll probably redirect a Meteor Beam away as well as a Yawn, but maybe they just go for Sludge Bomb again. I was actually kind of surprised to see Sludge Bomb over Meteor Beam turn 1, but them conserving it ends up benefiting them, so it was a nice play. But the idea here is that nothing on their team takes Bleak Wind super well, so I want to just spam Tornadus now. And it's actually Power Gem, which makes me think they just don't have Bleak Wind. And Yawn, yep. This turn is actually pretty pivotal because Bleak Wind here is really safe. Me switching out Ogerpon is kind of the obvious option. I think I'm fine committing the obvious play here, though. I don't know my Power Gem Glimmora calcs into Tornadus, but my guess is this might be Assault Vest bulky Glimmora. And Raging Bolt here is going to be a pretty nice switch in. Okay, they don't protect with either. Yeah, Bleak Wind does a ton there. That was a crit onto Glimmora, so yeah, that's definitely Assault Vested. Yep, Power Gem on a Torn now. We survive with 5, nice. And they Wave Crash into Ogerpon, cool. Okay, excellent. So the bulk on Tornadus here really, really paying off. Lucky crit onto the Glimmora for sure. I think now you definitely just protect on Dozo and then sacrifice Glimmora. Which is interesting. So I haven't set up Tailwind yet. Oh, the thing is if I Tailwind, I'm actually not sure I get a KO here. So I actually don't mind going for Protect here and Thunderbolt. The logic behind this play is I expect Dondozo to protect and for Glimmora to try to knock out Tornadus. Yep, perfect. And so I intentionally don't take the knockout onto Glimmora so that this next turn I threaten with the double KO. Glimmora could Earth Power into Raging Bolt, but I don't think that's too much of a problem here. They do Earth Power, yeah. Solid damage, but that's fine because the damage pressure I have going into this next turn now is immense. And I basically didn't want Glimmora to get a free switch in right now. Yeah, there's nothing that can take Bleak Wind plus Thunderbolt from their end right now. The downside there is I could have spent the last turn maybe clicking Tailwind. If they have Dragonite in the back, that can Extreme Speed Tornadus before I get Tailwind up since Extreme Speed's priority is higher. But I'm okay with where the game state is right now. You know, we forced the Terra out of Glimmora early. Meaning that Dondozo can Terra. We still have Ogerpon in the back, by the way, right? And Ogerpon's really good into, like, Flutter and Chi-Yu, especially with the Rain being up. So Dondozo does make the switch here, which makes sense. And it's going to be Flutter coming out, okay? That's fine. Should take over 50% from this combo. It's going to be Booster. Let's see if you're Speed or Special Attack. I'd much rather see Special Attack here, but it is going to be Speed, okay? So Bleak Wind connects, knocks out Glimmora. And one of the nice things about Rain Dance here is just never having to worry about missing Bleak Wind. Like, Bleak Wind is such a good move, but it misses so frequently, right? So being able to set up the Rain is just so nice for it. We get Thunderbolt off. It's really good damage. Now my question is whether or not you have Dragonite in the back. If you have Dragonite, you can position for Extreme Speed, but it's not going to be Dragonite. It is going to be Urshifu instead, which is great to see. So with Urshifu, I definitely don't mind clicking Tailwind right now. I think I'm fine going for Tailwind and Thunderclap. The Thunderclap into this is obvious, so if you're my opponent, you should probably just protect Flutter and then go for like Wicked Blow onto Raging Bolt. It's tempting to actually make that read then. Because then I'd have Ogre Urshifu in the back. Okay, I'm actually down for that. Tailwind Thunderclap. Nice. Very good. Basically, the logic here is even if Flutter doesn't protect, like, I still get Tailwind up, right? Oh, interesting. So they went for Sucker Punch instead of Wicked Blow, which was smart. And as a result, because this Tornadus is slower, and Urshifu is presumably max speed, they actually outpace us there. So my idea was, hey, you should probably go for Wicked Blow. I guess I could have just Thunderbolted there, though, because the expectation is Bolt outspeeds. But this Raging Bolt is so bulky, it actually survives that, which is nuts. Okay, I'm just going to Bleak Wind now and Thunderclap. I wouldn't have minded Bolt fainting there, quite frankly, because it gives me a free switch in, but this is still an okay game state. The only downside is that Rain is expired. So I should have thought about them clicking Sucker Punch onto Bolt, I guess. That actually felt like a fairly obvious play. But I think then Flutter didn't even need to protect, as they do make the switch here. Yeah. But I'm okay, because at this point I've set up speed control, right? And Bleak Winds just do a lot of damage, plus I get an switch in into the Ogerpon. Okay, they actually Sucker Punch into Tornadus, which is fine, since that means your Focus Sash now is broken. And I think Ogre should be well positioned to actually beat all of my opponent's Pokemon, but we probably want to go out into Urshifu first here. Yeah. My opponent's played really nicely the last 2 turns. Like, that could have just been a Thunderbolt into the Flutter slot. The reason I didn't Thunderbolt is because this Raging Bolt is not exactly the fastest, right? 224, and so with Speed Booster Flutter, they outpace us. If I'm my opponent, I'm switching Urshifu out into Flutter Mane right now. But with 2 turns of Tailwind, and with Water Ogre in the back, I think what I can do here is Close Combat into you, and Thunderbolt into you. And the logic here is if you switch out, then Thunderbolt just knocks out the Flutter Mane, Close Combat gets redirected into the Dondozo, and then Close Combat knocks out Urshifu. Like, do not underestimate late game Urshifu under Tailwind, because normally the way people try to beat Tailwind is going by Protect, right? And so they do make the pivot here, but this is fine since I'm not really threatened by the Dondozo right now, other than a Fissure. That's probably the one thing I'm scared about. So Close Combat doesn't go into it, but that's fine, right? The idea here is I just want to guarantee a knockout this turn. So here's Thunderbolt. Nice. So even if you go for Yawn here, it's fine. It's just going to be Wave Crash. Perfect. So Raging Bolt faints. And now we just get the Ogerpon back out. And I can just go for Horn Leech onto Dondozo and Close Combat onto Urshifu. Actually, I think the safer play here is probably Follow Me, because I could theoretically lose to Sucker Punch critical hit onto Ogerpon. Yeah, Sucker crit onto Ogerpon and then Yawn onto Urshifu. Whereas Close Combat plus Follow Me here is just a guaranteed knockout. Dondozo probably has to click Yawn. But then I just go for Follow Me Wicked Blow. So I think this is fine. Really clutch survivals in this game, though, from both Tornadus and the Raging Bolt, right? Like, you can see why this is a championship winning team. Teams that win tournaments, like, everything is just hyper-optimized, right? Like, every move, every item, every Terra type, and, of course, every EV spread. So they end up not going for Sucker Punch there, so we could have just gone Close Combat plus Horn Leech, but like I said, I don't want to lose to random Sucker Punch crit. They are going to go for Fissure here, but Ogerpon's going to dodge it. I wonder if they hit that, whether or not they could actually win. If you connect on that immediately, then it's 1v1 Ursh against Dozo, and I'm not sure 2 Wicked Blows actually get the knockout, so you would go, like... We just Horn Leech here. So that was actually a little bit scary. I like wonder if I should have actually just played around the Fissure hitting, because if I Horn Leech there, even if Fissure connects, I just win. I don't know if I actually needed to respect Sucker Punch critting there as much as I did, right? Because the odds of a crit are actually slimmer than the odds of Fissure connecting, right? Fissure is 30%, crit is way less than that. So mathematically, I think in that endgame, it actually maybe is better to just go for Close Combat plus Horn Leech. I think the main thing is that we had not seen Fissure yet up until that point, but what other move is Dondozo going to have other than Wave Crash? Like, if you have Wave Crash, Yawn, as well as Protect, like, what is your fourth move going to be, right? And so I think it's probably fine to assume Fissure there. So yeah, I think maybe in retrospect, it's actually better to still just go for Horn Leech there. And let me actually do the Sucker Punch calc onto Ogerpon, because I think maybe even with the crit we'd survive, but I'm not 100% sure. So pulling up the damage calc, the Ogerpon that we had 119 HP, so with the critical hit against this EV spread, it's actually only a 31.3% chance to get a one-hit knockout, right? You can see here that there are 5 damage rolls where you do more than 119 damage, and so I think because of this, I was thinking, okay, if you get a critical hit, you're guaranteed the knockout, but given this, and given the fact that this is calcing for admin, like they might be Jolly as well, right? So if you're Jolly, for example, here, then the Sucker Punch actually is never a KO from the range that we're at. So given this calc, it means that if my opponent were to get a critical hit, they still need a high roll to get the knockout onto Ogerpon, so I think it's better to just go for Wicked Blow plus Horn Leech. In that scenario, then even if the Fissure connects onto the Ogerpon, then we should still end up winning the game, because it's Focus Sash Urshifu with 2 Wicked Blows into Dondozo, and Dondozo should be at around like 50%-ish or so. I think if that Fissure had actually connected, our odds of winning suddenly become way slimmer. We, of course, get 2 Wicked Blows into the Dondozo slot, but I'm thinking Dondozo is bulky enough to survive that. And then, of course, they could go for Yawn and then wait for me to fall asleep and then Wave Crash a couple of times. So then my other question is how much Wave Crash would be doing into Urshifu and whether or not you're unaware or oblivious on Dondozo. But yeah, the main reason I didn't go for Horn Leech there was because I thought Sucker Punch would be a KO onto us if they got a crit. And I didn't also really factor in Fissure into that endgame as much. So even though we ended up winning this endgame, I think I actually could have played more optimally by just clicking Horn Leech. Alright, rank 319 here, and they also have a Tornadus plus Raging Bolt team, but they've got Flutter Chiyu as well as Chien-Pao. So a lot of heavy pace offense here. Don't know what Urshifu type it is, which makes it a little bit scarier. Both Water and Dark make sense here, but I would guess Water since you have Chien-Pao on the team, so your Focus Sash is likely taken up. Ideally, we stagger Tailwind. So, I like leading Raging Bolt a lot with the intention of knocking out Tornadus on their side immediately, then using our Tornadus in the late game. One thing to note is that the Bolt on this team is actually pretty fast, 132 speed EV, so there's a decent chance we outspeed the Bolt on their side. Could be something like Incineroar plus Bolt, Tornadus in the back. Ogre is not bad here. I will say, like, I think one of the tough matchups for this team is a well-played late game Raging Bolt, right? If they Fairy Terra Bolt, for example, we don't actually have that much offense against it. So I often actually feel forced to bring Gholdengo just to deal with late game Terra Bolt. So that's something to think about. Incin, Torn. Do I really go with Gholdengo here? I mean, they just have so many things that resist it. I think Ogre is not a bad pick here, but I have to be very careful right now because by committing to this core, I definitely struggle against late game Fairy Terra Bolt. Like a really well-conserved Assault Vest Fairy Bolt is really good into this comp because it demolishes Tornadus, it resists both of Urshifu's attacks. Ogerpon, of course, could go for like Ivy Cudgel, but that's it. And if you Terra, then you're weak to the electric type attacks. Bolt can't really do much either. So it's going to be Torn Chiyu. Okay, I'm pretty happy to see that. Like I said, the idea here is I want to stagger Tailwind. So, turn 1 here. I could go for Fake Out. Both of these could have Ghost Terra. Could be Snarl Chiyu as well. I think turn 1, I don't mind just going for Fake Out onto Chiyu, right? And Thunderbolt. If you end up going for Ghost Terra, that's fine, because it means I can just knock you off the next turn. And it means you've committed your Terra, which means no Terra on Bolt. Torn just protects. I wouldn't be surprised to see a double protect here. Oh, no protect. Okay. I'll take that. Chiyu flinches. Thunderbolt into Tornadus. Okay. So, definitely happy to Thunderbolt this again. If you look at their team, the only switching into Thunderbolt is Raging Bolt from their end. I could Parting Shot here into Chi-Yu. Parting Shot into Chi-Yu isn't bad, right? Knockoff is also interesting, though, because let's say Tornadus switches out into Bolt here. We can punish that pretty heavily by removing their item. So, yeah, given that that slot just protected, I'm willing to go all in here with Thunderbolt Knockoff. Okay, they just Tailwind. That's totally fine. The whole game plan here was to stagger our Tailwind, so I'm okay with that. And just Dark Pulse, okay? No flinch, fortunately. They do less than half. And Thunderbolt just KOs. Beautiful. Parting Shot here would have ended up working out better, but like I said, I don't mind trying to fish for a knockoff into Raging Bolt coming out and then getting rid of Chi-Yu's item. That's also so much damage. That's because it was a crit, okay? And it specs, which makes sense. Given that it did a ton to Assault Vest Bolt. But you can see how bulky Bolt is, right? Like, that was a specs attack. We still took less than 50%. So Ogre comes out. Sorry, Urshifu comes out. I obviously have Thunderclap pressure right now onto Chi-Yu. So Chi-Yu should contemplate switching out. Water Ursh means I can Terra Incin here. I could also just switch into Torn and let them eat up Rocky Helmet. I could also just Thunderclap Urshifu right now. Chi-Yu should switch here, in my opinion. Alright, I'm going to Thunderclap here. Switch into Torn. Chi-Yu stays in, though. Okay. I mean, I guess that's fine. And Urshifu detects. Wow, that is not what I expected them to go for. Okay. I mean, it's fine. Like, let's say you're Dark Pulsing. I just get to Tailwind this next turn. But if I just Thunderclap Chi-Yu, that would have been a KO. I'm going to go for Snarl, which is smart. But this is still okay, because my whole game plan here was to just stagger Tailwind, and we've done that really successfully at this point, right? I don't mind switching Incin in right now, and then clicking Tailwind. Although that last turn is a little bit frustrating, because I could have just gotten a free knockout, Tornadus in, and then just Tailwind, and we would have been in a really good spot, but I think it's still fine. Kind of expect this to Terra right now. You could close combat. You could Strikes into Torn. Dark Pulse actually shouldn't KO Bolt, though. So maybe we just stay in here right now. Okay, I'm down to Draco here, actually, and just Tailwind. Force a Terra out here. Terra Ursh. Into Steel. That's fine. Now you're weak to Incineroar Flare Blitz. So we get Tailwind up. Okay, they just go for Heat Wave, which is fine. Tornado survives. Nice. Burns Bolt, but that's fine. Not really too much of an issue. I went for Draco, by the way, to cover for Grass Terra. It's actually Drain Punch Urshifu. Whoa. Okay, that's not super common. That's super interesting. But that's fine. Let's bring out the Ogerpon now. We know Chi-Yu is choice specs, and so even though it doesn't have specs anymore, we can still just safely target that slot. Three turns of Tailwind. Last turn of Tailwind on their end. Oh, I still have to be careful about late game Raging Bolts on their end, huh? Kajo and Rain Dance here is really safe. I'm down for that. They don't protect Urshifu, though, so that could have been an opportunity to target Ursh down. I feel like the last couple turns, my opponents definitely outpredicted me, so well done by their end. I'm curious, are you running Close Combat and Drain Punch on Ursh? No close combat. Okay. That makes sense. Tailwind peters out. Let's see what the last one is. Like, we've staggered our Tailwind all the way up until now, right? It's Chien-Pao. Okay, that's the perfect final Pokemon for us to see. Excellent. I would have been a little bit more concerned about Raging Bolt, but with 2 turns of Tailwind left, I should be able to just Terra now, Cudgel into Ursh, and then switch into Incin. Even if Urshifu protects here, it's fine, because I get Incin out, I still have 1 more turn of Tailwind, and I just fake out into the Chien-Pao. So, my opponent had a couple of really nice back-to-back turns, right? Like, Urshifu protecting instead of Chi-Yu, when I could have just Thunderclapped the Chi-Yu. I thought Chi-Yu would definitely switch out in that position, and then holding on to this defensive Terra with their Urshifu as well, but because I kind of executed the game plan, which was staggering my Tailwind, now we have a pretty big advantage, right? Drain Punch was definitely interesting, though, on Ursh. I don't expect to see that very frequently, so it's probably super bulky Urshifu, but with the Water, Terra, as well as the Rain Dance, as well as the defense drop from the Chien-Pao, expect that Ivy Cudgel gets the KO here. And Incineroar is actually in a pretty good offensive spot right now as well, as long as it doesn't just get Surging Strikes, but it's hard for you to actually get that Surging Strikes off. They actually Aqua Jet into that slot, which is a nice play. But now you're stuck with the -1 Chien-Pao, and it's a 3v1, right? So even if you end up Sacred Swording into Incin, it's fine. So it's Aqua Jet, Surging Strikes, Drain Punch, Detect. So no close combat. Close combat is just such a strong move, but Drain Punch makes sense if you're like an ultra bulky Urshifu, and the element of surprise also can go a really long way. And they go for Crunch, okay. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's still, what, 1 more turn of Tailwind on our end. So it's actually pretty safe to just switch into Torn right now and fake out. Since they should always protect. I mean, this game was over either way. But the idea is Chien-Pao should always protect in that position. So I get Torn out. I get to set up Tailwind again. And Chien-Pao just can't win a 1v3, especially while intimidated. So, yeah. But to me, I think ultimately we had a pretty nice early advantage in this game, right? Like, I think one of the best things about Raging Bolt is that it demolishes Tornadus. And this is something I learned from experience while using this team, because I would often lead Tornadus into opposing Raging Bolts. I would get Tailwind up, and then I would just lose a Pokemon, and then, like, wouldn't get that much value out of Tailwind either. So in this matchup, I knew that late game Tailwind would be really valuable. I figured we have a nice advantage with Raging Bolt being so bulky and having that Assault Vest. And as you can see, it didn't even take 50% from Choice Specs Dark Pulse from Chi-Yu to start the game, right? We were lucky that we avoided a flinch in the early game, and to my opponent's credit, I thought they did a really nice job making some nice comeback plays. For example, going for, like I said, staying in with Chi-Yu, and then holding onto the Terra with Urshifu. So it brought them some momentum back, but because their last one was Chien-Pao instead of Bolt, I think that we had a much easier time. If their last one were Raging Bolt, I actually would have been really concerned since I lost my Bolt so early on in this battle. So I think with this team, Raging Bolt is easily one of the primary carries, but going up against opposing Bolts, especially ones that are well conserved, can be really scary. So we're fortunate that that wasn't in the back for this one. And I think if my opponent wanted to make an adjustment, you bring Bolt over Chien-Pao in that endgame, and things might look a little bit different. That is a Cetitan. Okay. I don't think I've seen this since literally the first 3 months of Scarlet and Violet VGC. And my opponent's pretty high ranked as well, so I'm assuming it's Slush Rush, but Rain Dance Tornado should be a nightmare for my opponent. I think the main thing to consider here is that they have 2 things that Tornadus hates going up against, which is Thunderous and Raging Bolt. So if I were my opponent, I'd actually prioritize leading those. So I'm thinking I want to use my Bolt early. It could still be worthwhile to lead Tornadus here, but the thing to think about is if I lead Bolt and Tornadus, I have no switch-ins into electric type attacks. Like Thunderbolts will just do neutral damage across the board. It also could be Eerie Impulse Thunderous, would actually, I now realize, would cause some major problems. Huh. Now I'm actually thinking about Gholdengo just nasty plotting up. Is that crazy? What if I go Incin, Gholdengo, Torn, and should I really? I mean, I want to bring Bolt for the Thunderous and Bolt matchup, but this is obviously pretty bad into the Ice types. I think I will bring Bolt, though, because it gives me a switch-in. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, a lot of unique Pokemon here between Thundurus, Ninetales, and Cetitan. Cetitan obviously being the really, really unique one. This thing's base HP stat is one of the highest in the game, base 170. Normally when I see Cetitan, I expect it to be a belly drum set. So I'm hoping they're leading their electric types here. Yep, okay, nice. That's what we were trying to fish for. So the idea is like Gholdengo, it's not going to do a ton of damage, but I can at least like get relatively free Nasty Plots off. So the idea is to try to eliminate at least one of these, then use Tornadus later on. So, like, I think my game plan here is to just fake out turn 1 into Bolt, and then Nasty Plot. You can see, though, right? Like, when people go up against Tornadus, they love leading electric types, and that's one of the reasons why I like actually bringing Tornadus in the back. Oh, Bolt actually protects. Okay, so it's not Assault Vest. Interesting. It's a little bit spooky, because I think, like, they can just start dealing decent damage. Like, you just click Wild Bolt Storm right now, for example. Oh. Uh-oh. I feel like I always lose to manual electric terrain, and I think that is pretty scary to see, because I'm telling you, now my opponent's just going to Rising Voltage, right? Oh. So, I think the save play is actually the Grass Terra here, because it means Rising Voltage doesn't knock out Incin. Parting Shot into Raging Bolt, and then Protect here with Gholdengo. I know it seems like kind of a weird Terra, but Gholdengo definitely doesn't need a Terra right now. I don't think Tornadus needs a Terra, so then I think Raging Bolt going for Terra makes sense here. But I think guaranteeing a Parting Shot out here is worth committing my Terra to. To be honest, I think a lot of times Rising Voltage just ends up going into the Gholdengo slot anyway, so this might be like too safe of a play to make. But I don't want Incineroar to just get one shot here, because I think I would actually just get swept by Raging Bolt across the board with Rising Voltage, and I think bringing it down to -1 is actually really critical here. I'm mainly curious if they had Covert Cloak on Thundurus, because if they didn't, then I could have just clicked Fake Out into that slot on turn 1. But there's the Protect. Cool, Thundurus Thunderbolts into that slot, yep. Yep, there's Rising Voltage. Okay, nice. This is exactly why we made this play. And it actually did less than half, so we would have survived, but it would have been super, super close. That's not a damage calc I really want to risk. Okay, so we pivot out. Question is whether or not I want to go into Torn first, or just go right into Bolt, now that you're at -1. I think I'm okay going to Tornadus, but this makes me a little bit weaker to Ninetales Cetitan in the end game, which is now my primary concern. So I can just Tailwind now and Shadow Ball. I think I want to Shadow Ball Thundurus here, but my fear now is that +2 Shadow Ball doesn't KO either Pokemon. They're also going to Terra here, which makes me think it's Electric Terra Bolt. Yeah. Okay. This might still knock me out even with the Parting Shot, honestly. But we at least get Tailwind up. If Shadow Ball knocks out Thundurus, this is huge, because then my Raging Bolt should be in really good... but we're so close. Okay, just missed the knockout. Thunderbolt comes out. Tornadus survives. And here's Rising Voltage, now boosted by Electric Terra as well. Does it get the one-hit knockout? The EV spreads on this team are too good. The downside, though, is that this can now Thunderclap me, right? I really want to eliminate Thundurus, though. Because I'm still worried about it having Eerie Impulse, so just getting rid of it opens the door for my Raging Bolt. So I'm actually going to click Bleak Wind and Make It Rain here. Like, Presumably, Thunderclap knocks out one Pokemon. You should probably target the Gholdengo. But let's see. Nice, they target Tornadus. Yeah, exactly. So I think in this position, my opponent's thinking, well, it's so obvious for you to just go for the Protect with Gholdengo. But now I get to punish them by eliminating Thundurus. And that's so much damage on the Bolt, actually. Perfect. Crit on a Thundurus. But obviously that doesn't matter since they were super low HP. Thundurus faints. Now I can bring out my Bolt. So yeah, I definitely didn't expect Electric Terrain. Like, that threw me in for a loop. But I think we played around it decently okay so far. So I'm not super upset. But Electric Terra, Raging Bolt in Terrain is an absolute menace. And that's something actually I had tried out on the channel before. And like Rising Voltage plus Electric Terra coverage is just absolutely nuts. So they still have Thunderclap pressure onto me right now, which is the main scary thing. This game kind of shows you how EV spray distribution matters, right? We have a lot of bulk, so as a result, we were able to survive their attack. But if we just had a little bit more offense, we would have been able to actually just get the knockout onto Thundurus with that Shadow Ball, which would have been really nice. They're going to bring out Flutter Mane. It's going to be Booster Energy, and it's going to be Speed. Okay, so that means even with Tailwind, you're still a problem. I still have 2 turns of Tailwind, though, which is good. This turn is interesting, right? It's a question of whether or not Raging Bolt protects, but Flutter Mane Moonblast shouldn't really do that much damage. However, if I click Draco Meteor, it means that I'll be stuck at -2 unless I switch out. The play I'd like to make is to Draco into Bolt and switch into Instant right now. I think I'm okay with that. The main thing is just trying to eliminate Bolt while not losing a Pokemon either. But I could definitely see Bolt just protecting here. Which means I could have just gone Thunderbolt onto their Flutter Mane as a prediction. Nice, they don't protect. Okay, perfect. And they Dazzle, which activates Citrus on Instant, which is ideal. This is still kind of scary, though. I'm not sure I have enough firepower to beat this Flutter Mane in the late game since it outpaces my whole team. But I think I had to make this play, because otherwise you just Draco my Bolt and knock me out. So, let's see. Terrain is also about to expire. Yep. The Dazzle actually did a little bit more than I expected it to, which doesn't feel great. Incineroar is their last one. We have 36 speed EVs. This is actually looking pretty tough. I think late game Flutter was really well conserved here, and I gave up so many resources just to deal with Raging Bull. What would have made the difference in this game, maybe, is if I didn't actually commit that Grass Terra, but I figured they were going to Rising Voltage that turn. I felt like I needed a Parting Shot. Given that they were Speed Booster Flutter, like, I think Ogerpon would have been the right Pokemon to bring in this matchup if we eliminate... Like, it would have been perfect in this endgame, but I don't know. It's not the easiest matchup. Still at least have one turn of Tailwind, which means I get a guaranteed Fake Out onto this. I'm actually just going for Flare Blitz Thunderbolt here. Okay, yeah, they don't... If we get the KO here, maybe we can win? Oh, special attack drop. Okay, with that, then I definitely don't think we get the knockout. But to be honest, even without it, yeah, like, I was already intimidated. Oh my gosh, we would have gotten that knockout. Oh, I think Instant still wins the 1v3, though. Yeah, since they just Flare Blitz, so... Even if we had gotten that KO, I think we still end up losing, but... We at least would have had a shot to get a crit. The Flutter was just so strong here in this endgame. Yeah, even with the... And, like, it being Speed Booster Energy was a pretty big deal, because it means that even with Tailwind, I just get outpaced by it. So, Speed Booster Flutter can be pretty scary to go up against. And the way my opponent distributed their damage was really well done in this game. So, yeah, I do think playing against Raging Bolts in general can be pretty scary. And here they just had a lot more offense, right? So, is there any way we win? The Wincon is a crit, actually. So, like, if... I mean, Flutter should just protect here. My opponent actually should... I'm trying to think if there's any way in which we win if we get, like, a Draco crit with Bolt. Okay, I'm going to Thunderclap and Nasty Plot here. They should protect with Flutter, so I was thinking, do I want to read into the protect and just hope for 2 crits onto Incin? Yeah, they do go for the protect, okay. But I think I saw a world in which we win where they just end up attacking with Flutter Mane. I actually get that knockout, Incin targets Bolt, and then Gholdengo crits make it rain onto single target Incin. But the other way to have played this was to just double up onto Incin and hope for a crit there. But yeah, you correctly go for knockoff. Nicely done. If the special attack drop didn't happen, at least we'd be in a scenario where we can just crit Draco immediately, right? We can, like, we have 2 chances to crit with Draco. Like, I Draco Nasty Plot. And then I could also protect the Gholdengo, for example, if I think that Incin's going to target down into the Gholdengo slot. So, super close. But in the end, my opponent's Electric Turn Raging Bolt was really strong. I should have seen that combo coming. Like, I just didn't anticipate it as much. And I wonder if I click Fake Out, turn 1 on a Thunderous, if that changes anything. The reason why Fake Out could be interesting is because it would actually give me the chip damage where maybe then Shadow Ball gets that knockout. I don't know if Tornadus was necessarily right to bring in this battle, but without knowing the Flutter Mane's item, I think it's still okay, right? If it's a Choice Specs Flutter Mane, that game looks kind of different. The Speed Booster is just so scary for my Raging Bolt, right? And Gholdengo being so low, like, it survived, which was really nice, but, like, the main thing here is I was not able to overwhelm my opponent with Tailwind since Gholdengo was pressured by being outsped by the opposing Flutter Mane, as well as Thunderclap from the opposing Bolt. And so that's one of the ways to beat Tailwind, right? You have priority, or you have ways to outpace your opponent's Pokemon even if they've set up Tailwind. And this team is pretty speedy, but a Speed Booster Flutter will be able to outpace a lot of things, even if Tailwind is set up on our end. So, yeah. I don't know. Like, I think Ogerpon is interesting because it hard wins against Flutter Incin in the end game, but it didn't feel very good into the rest of my opponent's team, and especially not into Raging Bolt. And I think Urshifu could have been okay as well, but yeah, ultimately, I think I was, a little bit caught off guard by the Raging Bolt with, you know, the rising voltage in general. I also wonder if, like, Shadow Ball could have just done enough to get the knockout onto Bolt instead, because that turn I went for Shadow Ball into Thunderous and hoping to get the KO there. And I think I was, like, overly worried maybe about Eerie Impulse. So, yeah. Let me actually pull up the calc. I'm curious. Yeah, even against no special defense, no HP Raging Bolt, the +2 Shadow Ball does 75 to 89%, and a lot of Raging Bolts obviously have a ton of bulk, so yeah, wouldn't expect it to get the knockout. So I think the main thing in this game is that trading against the Raging Bolt on their end was really difficult, because they just do so much damage. One interesting approach could have been just leading my Raging Bolt outright, which can at least just go for Draco Meteor onto their end. But yeah, the combination of Thunderous and Bolt just felt really difficult to deal with here. I think, like, we didn't have a ton of tools. Another interesting approach could have been having Ogerpon in the back, so then I use it just as a follow me bot, so that the Gholdengo is able to get a couple of free attacks off. But it's hard because we're getting outpaced by my opponent. If I want to set up Tailwind, then I bring Tornadus, but Tornadus gets wrecked by the electric types, and so I think that's a matchup I got to think a little bit more about. You know, it's not a very conventional matchup, but I think the way my opponent executed it was very nice. Whoa, okay, we've got Dragapult, Ting-Lu, Dondozo, as well as Screamtail. This feels like, you know, Reg C team, or Reg D. All the regulations are kind of mixed up in my head now. But they've got Entei as well. This is really interesting. I mean, it's a little bit similar to the team that won the North American International Championships, piloted by Alex Gomez, but that team had Champao. It's very unique to see Dragapult without Champao, actually. And, you know, Ting-Lu's been interesting because it was such a big force of the meta last year, but then Urshifu came and then it just completely faded. But now some people have actually been using it again with the rise of, like, psychic spam teams. To me, Gholdengo setting up multiple Nasty Plots here is interesting. They do have Fake Out, but I can easily just protect Tornadus and then Tailwind. Speed Booster Screamtail is probably what I'm most concerned about. Probably Fairy Ting-Lu, right? Bolt is awful into Ting-Lu. It's one of the reasons why people are using that Pokemon again. I don't mind an Incineroar Gholdengo lead with Tornadus in the back. Should be bringing one of Ogerpon or Urshifu for sure. I'm gonna go Ogre here, mainly because I expect Fairy Terra Tinglu, which completely walls Urshifu. I actually think Tinglu is really good into our team, so I'm excited to fight against it, just to see how well it matches up. This also low-key could be support Dragapult instead of offensive Dragapult, where you're like dual screens Will-O-Wisp, like Clay. So that's one thing to think about. It's just like, are you really going to be choice banned without the... Are you really going to be choice banned here is my question. So in this one, I actually don't mind going for knockoff and protect on turn 1. Like, I have a sneaky suspicion that this Dragapult is not offensive, but if it is, it's also fine if I just go for protect and bait out something, right? Incineroar is relatively protected right now. I just don't want to commit my Terra this early on, and Incineroar actually has a pretty favorable matchup in a Dragapult, as long as it's not something crazy, like, I don't know, Terra, Water, Terra Blast. We should be okay. I think Scream Tail here almost always protects, because then you have pressure with Fake Out and Encore, but they actually don't protect. Oh, interesting. How? Oh. As soon as it didn't protect, I was like, that's what it's going for. That's cool. Wow. Nice play. Man, that would have been such a free nasty plot. I feel like Dozo or Tinglu comes out here, though, and I get rid of your item, so it's not the end of the world, but that was a really sick play. Oh, it's actually Entei. Okay, that's fine. They still feel pretty Gholdengo weak to me right now. Your safety goggles. So, I can definitely parting shot here. I mean, you can just Howl Sacred Fire Gholdengo right now. Man, I don't think +1 KOs Torn, so I'm down to switch into Torn here. If I get this parting shot off, then we're actually super well positioned, because then I just bring out the Ogerpon, and I can just go for like Tailwind or Rain Dance plus Terra and just start clicking Ivy Cudgel into everything. But that was a really cool play by my opponent on turn 1. Like, Gholdengo could have just gotten a lot of free damage off there, but did not. Yep, so they go for Howl again. Gotta be worried about Scream Tail dealing decent damage as well at this point. Nice, Tornadus does hang on. Get parting shot off. I guess the scary thing right now, though, is that they can extreme speed with the Entei. Right? So it might be better, like I want to go into Ogre, and I think it might be smarter to just protect Tornadus as they try to E-speed us, cudgel them to KO. And then it allows me to set up Tailwind, and I think Gholdengo under Tailwind is insanely good into my opponent's team. But this turn is scary because Entei could protect, right? We know it's Safety Goggles, so it's probably Extreme Speed, Sacred Fire, Protect, and one of Snarl or Stomping Tantrum. I would guess Stomping on a team like this. I really didn't see Howl coming out on turn 1 immediately. But that makes sense as to why they don't have Chien-Pao. You have another way to just increase your damage output. That was such a nice play. Torn protects. Okay, good. E-speed into us. Which means now I can set up Tailwind. Just another Howl. I mean, Scream Tail's at what? +2 attack now? Play rough from that is actually a little scary. But we get the knockout onto Entei, which is nice. I mean, if you bring Dragapult back out, I can just go for, I think, Spiky Shield, Tailwind. Just double check the board state. +2 attack. Yeah, I'm down to just Spiky Shield and Tailwind right now. The main reason I'm going for this is because I don't want... One, I want to see what move Dragapult locks itself into, right? I think it should be choice banded. So, we get to see what it wants to do. And then I can use that information afterwards, right? And when Tornadus faints, I can just bring out Gholdengo. Screamtail, even if you're running play rough, should not scare me offensively that much right now. So it's not a huge concern. Really cool team to fight against, though. So go for Spiky. Tailwind gets set up. They didn't commit a Terra, but there's no reason to Terra in this spot. Yep, just another Howl. I mean, Howl darts here definitely makes sense. Oh, they go for U-turn, actually. Okay. Oh, that makes this really interesting. Okay. So I can Terra now. I don't think Rain Dance Cudgel KOs, though, which is kind of my main concern here. I wonder if Cudgel Rain Dance knocks out this. Because Pult's not really that scary. The main thing is because Tailwind is up, like, knocking out Pult would actually be pretty good for us to accelerate this battle. Because then it's just forced to come out and we just KO it. Could also just bring out Gholdengo. Okay, Pult hard switches. Makes sense. Ting-Lu. Nice. Oh, although if I went Rain Dance Cudgel into that slot, that's probably just GG right there. But I think this is still fine. I'm just curious how much damage I should be expecting from a +3 Screamtail. Don't forget we have Incineroar for Intimidate as well, so that's helpful. I could have punished that hard switch, though, by just going for, yeah, the Cudgel into that slot. But let's see how much this does. Like, if it knocks out Screamtail, I think we just win the game immediately. Oh, so close. Oh, that was actually a ton of damage. Oh my gosh. Okay. 2 turns of Tailwind left. I want to be careful here. I think we really, really want to get another Tailwind up ideally, or get a knockout here. Ting-Lu, in my opinion, should Terra here. Actually, I think it's okay to just go for Cudgel and Bleakwind. I don't want to play too passively right now. Because I have Gholdengo in the back still. What a fun game, though. When was the last time you've seen Screamtail do that much damage? Yep, so here's the Terra. Onto Ting-Lu. Nice, okay, Poison Terra. I think the one thing I was a little bit worried about by playing the way I did this turn is if they ended up being, like, Water Terra. Yeah, so Screamtail protects. We get Ivy Cudgel in the rain now against Ting-Lu. That's actually really bulky, wow. I'm just worried about them having a spread move that knocks both of our Pokemon out, but if they don't, I think we should still be okay. Speed drop here. Okay, it's just Earthquake. That won't knock Tornadus out, so that's fine. Cool. What is the item on the Ting-Lu, though? Now is my question. Do I want to bring Gholdengo out or Incin out here? Does Make It Rain plus Bleakwind actually KO Ting-Lu? I'm not sure it does. I think it's better to go into Incin here and knock off. Because that looks like Assault Vest, right? But I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I can just knock off in Bleakwind. I'm just worried about it actually not being Assault Vest Ting-Lu. Like, I don't know my Tornadus calcs into Ting-Lu super, super well. Okay, they just go for the double. Nice, so we should be good here. Perfect. Bleakwind gets the KO. Excellent. I figured it was Assault Vest, so I figured Bleak Wind knockoff always just wins in this spot. Like, even if you get that double protect, it's still, I think, okay. Actually, if they get the double, maybe it gets a little bit spookier. Because then, like, even if I Tailwind, you're outpacing me with Pult plus Screamtail. That is actually really spooky. Yeah. No. Well, indeed is Assault Vested, and Dragapult can't win a 3v1 now. But what a cool team to fight against here. Seriously. Pult comes out. And just knock off again. And Tailwind. Yeah, they end up forfeiting. I feel like I had a pretty big matchup advantage here just in terms of the Pokemon I had relative to my opponent, so I was like, I really don't want to lose this, but my opponent made some really cool plays, right? Like, one, just having Howl Screamtail in general, that's not super common. Normally, the standard Screamtail set is something like Encore, Disable, Protect, and then an attacking move like Dazzling Gleam or Play Rough, and so to actually have the Howl here, and as soon as they didn't Protect, I was like, okay, I think that's what's coming my way, but, you know, my opponent had to make so many reads in order to even stay in the game, right? Like, turn 1 could have gone disastrously for them if I just attack with Gholdengo there. And so, even though they were able to get these Howl boosts off, it was still pretty tricky for them. And I think part of it is because you're fairly limited by the fact that you're Choice Band on Dragapult as well as Assault Vest on Tinglu, to which I can take advantage of. But that's one of the coolest teams I've fought in a while, for sure. Alright, we've got Trick Room Sun here. So, Hatterene, Entity, Gallade, Ursaluna, Torkoal, and Hisuian Lilligant. The main leads to watch out for here are Indeedee, Hat, Indeedee, Gallade, Torkoal, Lilligant. Gallade's a Pokemon that's been popping up a little bit more, specifically on these compositions. With Clear Amulet, you just do massive amounts of damage. You don't have to care about Intimidate from Incineroar. So, we have Rain Dance on Tornadus, which is huge. So, I think I might want to lead that. I think something like Tornadus Bolt works, or Tornadus Gholdengo. Gholdengo mainly for the damage output it can have, but Bolt because of Snarl, which is quite nice. The main question also is to figure out who we want to drop in this one, but I think I definitely want to lead Tornadus to give ourselves a better chance into like Torkoal Lilligant stuff. You know, I think I'm down for Gholdengo because I can Nasty Plot with this. I'll have Bolt in the back, and then for the last one, Incineroar or Urshifu. I like Urshifu because of Sash. You can take an attack and then retaliate back with, like, close combat. So, yeah, the main thing that's tricky about this matchup in Best of 1 is covering for both the Sun mode as well as the Trick Room mode. And then within the Trick Room mode, there's Indeedee Hat, Indeedee Gallade, right, as possible leads. You normally don't lead Torkoal or Ursaluna unless Torkoal is specifically next to the Lilligant. You could lead Ursaluna plus a Trick Room user, I suppose, and then just protect Trick Room. It's going to be Indeedee plus the Gallade. Okay. So the main thing to worry about here is that Gallade actually does get access to Wide Guard. So you could theoretically Wide Guard right now. Something like Wide Guard plus Trick Room, for example. The main thing, though, is I think Gholdengo should be fairly well protected here. So I don't actually mind clicking Bleak Wind Storm and Nasty Plot on turn 1. They're actually going to commit a Terra here. Okay, that works for me. Into Gallade, sure. And it's going to be Fire. Okay. Well, that indicates to me then you are probably not clicking Wide Guard. I wouldn't be surprised if they just try to knock out Tornadus here. Yep. We get Bleak Wind Storm, decent damage. If they're Terra Blast, though, this gets really ugly. But it's just Psycho Cut. Okay, nice. Tornado survives, and Trick Room goes up. Okay, that works for me. Not too bad of a turn. I mean, I personally don't mind going for Protect and just make it rain here, I think. Even with Helping Hand, like, I don't think Helping Hand Psycho Cut knocks out Gholdengo. This Gholdengo is, like, max HP, EV investment, a little bit of defense as well. Okay, Indeedee switches out. So I'm hoping Torkoal comes out here, because then I can just Rain Dance with Tornadus next turn. It's going to be Ursaluna, though. That makes me think they're going to click Wide Guard here, but let's see. If it's not Wide Guard, I feel like you just lose on the spot right now. Oh, they actually just go for Psycho Cut. Okay, nice. This is the main thing. Like, I felt like Gholdengo was not threatened by too much offensively in this matchup other than Ursaluna and Torkoal. But we actually failed to get the knockout onto both. Okay, so that makes this not immediately one for us. But the upside is that Ursaluna is basically on a timer right now with that Flame Orb, so could be worse. 3 turns of Trick Room left. We have Bolts. We haven't committed Terra either. I can definitely protect Gholdengo here. Protect Gholdengo this turn. They'll probably just try to Psycho Cut Tornadus. So that's what's interesting, right? Like, if they try to Psycho Cut, I'd actually switch into Urshifu here to take that. It's a little bit risky, I think, bringing in Urshifu like that, though, since we have the Sash. But I'll go for it. And then protect here. Yeah, I'm not sure this is actually the correct decision, just because I think Urshifu with Sash is so well positioned into my opponent's team. But if they do end up clicking Psycho Cut here, I think we should be in very good shape. Cool. Okay, Headlong Rush. That's already good. This means even if they made this read to target Urshifu, we should still be okay, because Sash will be conserved. But nicely done. Yeah, they do Sacred Sword into that slot, so well played. But that's fine. Like, the main thing here is that Ursaluna faints from one more turn of burn, right? So 2 turns of Trick Room left. I'm happy to protect here and then sacrifice Tornadus. So even though my opponent made the read with the Sacred Sword there, like, I think it's still fine. And if they had gone for Psycho Cut there and I have full HP Urshifu out in this spot, things are even better. But I figured it was worth taking that chance. And part of the logic for that is in case my opponent's last one is Torkoal, I thought, like, conserving Tornadus so that I could potentially Rain Dance in the mid game is really nice. Because otherwise Torkoal can actually just completely crush me here. So we're getting close to stalling out Trick Room, and critically the Ursaluna will faint here as well if they stay in. So maybe they consider switching out just a little, you know, you get one more attack off with it. But if they end up staying in here, which looks like they will, then Ursaluna should just faint, which is great. Nice bulk on both of their Pokemon, though, right? Like, that Make It Rain, like, I figured there's a chance that it just gets a double knockout there. And if we get that double knockout, it's so huge. But still feeling fine about this spot. Okay, Facade into Urshifu. I'm assuming Psycho Cut here. Yep. The other downside of not staying in with Tornadus earlier is that Sacred Sword would have meant that the Gallade takes Rocky Helmet damage and ends up fainting from Rocky Helmet, which would have been pretty sweet for us. Perfect. So now we just bring the Gholdengo back out, and I can just protect Gholdengo, sacrifice Urshifu, and then we're stuck with Raging Bolt and Gholdengo in the end game. And Hattering's their last one. Okay, that works for me. The one thing to note in this position is the potential of them clicking Trick Room with both Pokemon right now, since it's the last turn of Trick Room. So it's important for us to attack with the Urshifu here, just to make sure they can't get that off. So I'm happy clicking Wicked Blow here and going for Protect with Gholdengo. Yeah. The main thing we want to make sure is that we don't just let both Pokemon leave the turn untouched. And if they try to go for double Trick Room here and we just knock out the Gallade, we should just win off that. But yeah, they're just going to click Expanding Force. Oh, that's actually a really interesting decision. Where is Gallade targeting then? Okay, they do end up Sacred Swording Urshifu. So Gholdengo could have clicked Make It Rain there, but I'm still fine playing this safe. I think there's really no need to take any crazy risks in this game. So Trick Room expires. Terrain disappears. We bring out Bolt. So the game's actually not 100% won because, like, they theoretically could have Wide Guard here, which is a little bit scary. So I personally don't mind going for... I feel like if you had Wide Guard, you would have just gone for it on turn 1, right? We've seen Psycho Cut, Sacred Sword. You should be running Trick Room, and then normally it's Protect or Wide Guard as the final one. Alright, I don't mind just going for Thunderbolt here onto Gallade. And just Make It Rain. Okay, they don't have Wide Guard. And that's just a double knockout. Nice. So I figured even if you have Wide Guard in that spot, sure, you Wide Guard, but then a Thunderbolt still knocks out Gallade. You bring out Indeedee, but then it's Indeedee plus Hatterene against Gholdengo plus Raging Bolt, right? And I have Snarl with Raging Bolt. I still have the Terra advantage as well, so I figured, okay, well, even if you have Wide Guard, we should be okay. But I really figured they didn't have Wide Guard, because I feel like if you had Wide Guard, you just click Wide Guard on turn 1 of this battle rather than going for the Fire Terra. So it's kind of using context clues given what we had seen previously to inform my play here. But I think Gholdengo was just amazing in this game, right? It was able to set up, deal so much damage immediately, and threaten my opponent's entire team. Torkoal not coming out made this game easier for us, but that's why it was important to bring out Tornadus, even though they did not end up having the... even though they didn't end up bringing out the Torkoal, like, Tornadus is really critical in being able to Rain Dance to drastically reduce its damage output. So, yeah. These Trick Room games are interesting. A lot about what you want to think about when fighting against Trick Room is how do I make sure they don't do that much damage in, like, turn 1 and turn 2, right? And something like Nasty Plot Gholdengo is awesome against these teams because you can just take a turn to set up, and then there's nothing that can really reliably switch in to make it rain. You could also think about approaching it with the Raging Bolt and going for Snarl, but I think the problem with Raging Bolt is, let's say your opponent leads like Indy Hat or Indy plus Gallade, like, Trick Room gets set up, and then you could just pivot into the Ursaluna immediately, and then Bolt is not going to do very much damage on an Ursaluna switch-in, and you're also going to be threatened immensely by Ursaluna, right? And so, even though my opponent made some nice predictions in this game, calling Tornadus switching out, for example, Gholdengo just put us in such a nice early spot, and that initial Nasty Plot in to make it rain just put my opponent into a really difficult spot. So, this game actually is one of the reasons why people like to run Wide Guard on the Gallade. Without Wide Guard, you're just so much more vulnerable to spread moves. So, this game would have looked very, very different if Wide Guard was revealed like on turn 1 of the battle, for example. But them not going for it immediately put us in a pretty good spot. The logic I also had was like, even if you have Wide Guard, I have Shadow Ball, right? So if you're clicking Wide Guard, it means your Gallade isn't attacking, and with Gallade Indy as a lead, for example, like Indy is not going to do very much damage. So that means that I can just go for Shadow Ball onto the Gallade slot. Of course, then Indy could go for Follow Me, but if Indy goes for Follow Me, that means, and Gallade goes for Wide Guard, you're obviously not getting any damage off. So that was kind of how I thought about the early game in this one. Alright, we got Glamora here. If you replace Whimsicott for Tornadus and Entei for Chi-Yu, that ends up actually being like a super meta team right now, so it's kind of interesting to see Whimsicott and Entei over those, but... Let's see. Probably Dark Urshifu, since you have Waterpon on the team. Whims is scary, especially if it has Taunt. It's one of the scariest Pokemon to fight against in Best of 1. I feel like our Ogerpon, even as a Terra option, is not bad. I want to bring Tornadus, but maybe in the back. It's a little bit scary because I feel like they just have a lot of burst damage. Like, Urshifu Bolt is interesting, but then it's so weak to Whimsicott Moonblast. Could be Covert Cloak on Whims. Like, I'm worried about Whims Glamora lead. Which Gholdengo would be pretty nice against. Okay, I'm gonna go Instinct Gholdengo. Bolt. Torn. I don't know if Torn's actually the right decision here, because if I match their Tailwind, they're still going to be faster. The logic behind Torn is if we get to a game state where I knock out their Whimsicott and then I set up Tailwind, so I'll have like 2 extra turns of Tailwind relative to them. But I don't love the idea of leading Tornadus here. I think it's just kind of weak. Whims Entei, okay. I mean, Fairy Terra Gholdengo here immediately is not bad, but I don't know if I actually want to do that. Like, to be honest, in this spot, I think I'd prefer to protect Gholdengo and, like, Parting Shot into Entei. I could also knock off into it, but I'm down to protect Parting Shot. What that allows me to do is bring out Tornadus, and then Tornadus can Rain Dance. I don't know if Whim's got a Sunny Day here, though. If they have Sunny Day, that becomes a pretty huge problem. Okay, Whim switches out. I'm okay with that. If they're switching out, that makes me think they're not Covert Cloak, nor do they have Protect, because clearly they're trying to get around Fake Out plus Make It Rain on turn 1. So that's my logical guess so far. Ogerpon's a good switch in though. Like right now I don't have very much offense with Gholdengo, which is a little bit scary, but I at least get to position in Tornadus. So being able to utilize Incineroar's Parting Shot is such a pivotal part with this team when you're using it. So I think I don't mind going out into Torn here. The main interesting thing about Torn here is I could try to Nasty Plot right now, but even then I'm still not doing that much damage. I could pivot into Incineroar here. I think pivoting Torn back out onto Incineroar and going for Nasty Plot's also pretty interesting here. If I were them, I would probably just Water Terra this right now. But if they Water Terra, actually that's good news for me, right? Because of Bolt in the back. Alright, this is kind of crazy. I'm Tailwind and Nasty Plotting here. So the idea here is you can only knock out one of the two slots, and I should be able to force a Terra out, but I think the Gholdengo Terra's, or sorry, the Gholdengo Nasty Plot's a little bit questionable. Because I think if I'm my opponent, I'm actually probably just doubling up on the Gholdengo right now. But the Nasty Plot is basically saying I get to punish you pretty heavily if you end up ignoring it this turn. But yeah, I think Gholdengo pivoting back out into Incineroar here would have made a perfect logical sense. But forcing the Terra out alone is pretty good because it means, once again, like Bolt has a pretty good matchup now. Yeah, but they do just end up clicking Ivy Cudgel into that slot. Okay, Sacred Fire as well. Okay, it's actually Snarl, so I don't mind that as much. Because it means we survive the turn. Still not really doing that much damage from this spot, though. And that Tailwind is actually kind of a waste, in some sense. I'm gonna Shadow Ball here and switch into Incin. I think it's awkward right now because I just don't have that much immediate offense against both of these, right? Like, I can chip away at them, but I can't pick up one-hit knockouts, which makes this a little bit harder for me. The E-Speed into the Torn slot, okay. We get Shadow Ball. They're probably Assault Vested, right? Yeah, I don't even do half, wow. But we get a special defense drop, which is huge here if we end up surviving with Gholdengo. They end up cudgeling into the Tornado slot. Their targeting has been really well done so far, so I gotta give them props for that. Nicely executed. I'll bring Bolt back out, but not sure I love the fact that I just lost Incineroar like that. 2 turns of Tailwind. If I'm my opponent, I'm protecting this and snarling with this right now. I kind of want to just Shadow Ball here and Thunderbolt. Yeah, I think the problem for me in this game is that Ogerpon, sorry, like Tornadus' Tailwind, not very effective. Me being able to outpace my opponent isn't really helping. Oh, they actually switch. Nicely done. Into Urshifu. That's actually fine. It's like, if Ogerpon is protecting here, this is actually totally okay. Nice. Do we get the knockout, though, is the question. It's +1 Shadow Ball, neutral Thunderbolt into Urshifu. It's close. Okay, not bad. So you can bring Whimsicott out now. But yeah, the point I wanted to make is, like, the fundamental problem is that, yeah, I set up Tailwind, but me outpacing isn't actually really helping very much. Oh, it's interesting they bring out Entei for... Wow, really? Because I still have one more turn of Tailwind. Okay. I mean, I'll gladly go up against that. So, Shadow Ball plus Thunderbolt is pretty safe now into Ogre, right? But Ogre could just switch out. I could also double up onto Entei. I'm not really worried about a late game Entei matchup, though. But they do switch Ogre out, yeah. So doubling up onto Entei there may have... I mean, this is still okay, though, right? Because... We'll see if we knock out Whimsicott. If I get the knockout here, you either Sacred Fire to KO Gholdengo, but then I bring out Tornadus, to which then I just Tailwind. Oh, Whim survives, though. Wow. Alright, that is not a good survival. I shouldn't be shocked by that, though, honestly. I think it's still fine, quite frankly, but let's see. They'll Tailwind. I still haven't Terra'd either. But is there any point in Terraing right now? Not really. Man, I think I can just Thunderbolt Bleakwind here. I'm worried about, like, fake tears coming out from the... fake tears shouldn't matter, actually, right? I don't want to Rain Dance, because then Ivy Cudgel does more damage in the back. They could Sunny Day, I guess. Alright, I'll just Bleakwind Thunderbolt here. Maybe Protecting Torn's okay, but I don't want to protect in front of a Whimsicott like an Encore. They actually just Moonblast. Okay. Sacred Fire, that's fine. Yep, both survive. Okay, Burn. It's a little scary. And we miss Bleakwind. Oh, boy. Does Thunderbolt even get the knockout here? Oh, my goodness. Okay. That was not an ideal turn. Jeez. This game should not have been a loss. I mean, it's still winnable, obviously, but... It's a little frustrating for sure. They should Tailwind now, in my opinion. Do I even need to protect? I'm going for Protect Snarl, but I don't know. Like, they might just double up onto Raging Bolt here, right? Okay, yeah, Extreme Speed. Nice. Are they Moonblasting again or Tailwinding? Okay, perfect. Yeah, this is what I was hoping for. Good. And Snarl connects. Nice. Wow, this game was really intense. I mean, still not over, but I should have a really good late game Ogre matchup now with Bolt. Okay. We don't Terra here. If we Terra, we just suddenly take neutral damage from Cudgel, which is scary. Yeah, even with the crit, I think we should still be okay. Double check board state. 3 turns of Tailwind. We just Tailwind here and Thunderbolt. Yeah, okay, they just end up forfeiting. I think it was probably still worth playing it out for a turn. But I don't know if Ivy Cudgel crit even knocks out Raging Bolt from that spot. So that was a little bit scary just because we missed the Bleakwind on Whimsicott. I felt like I had a really nice early advantage, especially with Gholdengo getting that Nasty Plot off and then Entei pivoting out. And then, like, the key turn in this battle, in my opinion, where things swung into our favor was when they protected Ogerpon and then Urshifu just switched it and we got a knockout by doubling up onto that slot. I felt like the double was relatively risk-free there because Entei was assault vested, and so like that slot is basically fully exposed. You can't protect it. Ogerpon, of course, could go for follow me, but I don't want to just target Ogerpon if they spiky shield, and if I end up doubling into Ogerpon there and Urshifu comes out for free, I'm in really bad shape, right? So I just like wanted to make sure I secured the knockout there, but yeah, that was really intense. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much as always for joining me. This team is so powerful. It's not exactly the easiest to pilot because there's so many things to consider, but I hope that I've showcased just how powerful it can be. And of course, a huge congratulations once again to Toler and all of those that worked with him for constructing such an incredible team. And of course, to Toler for winning the Knoxville Regional Championships as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.